The story begins by introducing a terrifying power in the galaxy, the Zarkith Empire. For over 2 centuries, this alien species ruled not through kindness or diplomacy, but through fear and destruction. They had no interest in peace. They didn't care about alliances or deals. The Zarkith simply believed in total control, and they achieved it by building warships that were huge, deadly, and unstoppable. Whenever these ships appeared in a planet's orbit, the message was clear: surrender immediately or face total annihilation, and they weren't bluffing. The Zarkith had a reputation for burning entire cities, killing millions, and turning beautiful worlds into lifeless rocks if anyone dared to resist. Their rules spread quickly. One by one, planets gave in without a fight, too afraid to stand up. Even the Galactic Council, once a powerful organization made up of many alien civilizations, tried to push back. They had their own fleets, brave soldiers, and high technology. But the Zarkith crushed them in just a few weeks. After that, the galaxy changed forever. The Council became silent. The resistance disappeared, and a long period of fearful peace began. Everyone simply obeyed the Zarkith, because the alternative was death. The Zarkith didn't even talk much. They didn't send negotiators or make long speeches. They sent one short message to every world they invaded: obey or be erased. And everyone obeyed. But then something new happened. Humanity arrived. Humans were not a well-known species in the galaxy. They came from a small blue planet called Earth, far from the busy trade routes and rich worlds of the galaxy's center. Humanity had only just developed faster than light travel, which allowed them to explore the stars for the first time. Most of the galaxy didn't think much of them. They seemed small, weak, and unimportant. But humans were different in a way the Zarkith hadn't expected. They didn't like being told what to do. They were curious and bold, and they started asking questions no one else had dared to ask in a long time. The biggest question was simple: why does no one stand up to the Zarkith? Every species gave the same answer: because we must survive. To them, living in fear was better than dying for nothing. But Admiral Lexa Rain, a top commander in Earth's military, didn't agree. She had studied every battle the Zarkith had ever fought. She had read every report, watched every video, and listened to every story, and the more she learned, the more she realized something important. The Zarkith weren't unbeatable. They had weaknesses, if you knew where to look. And so Earth didn't build a giant fleet. They didn't send an army. They built one ship, a ship that would change everything. That's where the real story begins. We learn more about the newcomers to the galaxy, humans. Unlike the older, more established alien civilizations that had long been under the control of the Zarkith, humanity was new to the galactic scene. They had only recently developed faster-than-light (FTL) technology, which allowed them to travel beyond their solar system and make contact with the rest of the galaxy. Earth was a small blue planet located on the outer edges of the galaxy. It wasn't a major trading world or a military power. In fact, many alien species looked at humans and saw nothing special, just another curious species late to the galactic party. But humans had something different inside them, a spirit of rebellion and independence. Instead of bowing quietly like the others, humans started asking uncomfortable questions. They saw how the Zarkith ruled the galaxy through fear and violence. They saw how every species simply accepted it. Instead of being scared into silence like the rest, humans wanted to understand why no one ever stood up to the Zarkith. The answer was always the same: because we must survive. To most alien species, survival was more important than pride or freedom. They had watched their leaders get destroyed, their fleets get burned, and their people get slaughtered. They had lost the will to fight. Even thinking about resisting was considered foolish, almost suicidal. But Admiral Lexa Rain, a high-ranking commander in Earth's United Space Forces, couldn't accept that answer. She was different. A brilliant strategist and a fearless leader, she had studied the history of the Zarkith in detail. She had read every report, analyzed every battle, and noticed something that others missed. The Zarkith were strong, yes, but they were also predictable. Their war machines were powerful, but they hadn't changed in decades. They fought the same way again and again. To Admiral Rain, that meant something important. If we can't match them in numbers, Maybe we don't have to. She understood that Earth couldn't build a massive fleet like the Zarkith had, but she believed they didn't need to. Instead, they could build something smarter, faster, and deadlier, something the Zarkith wouldn't see coming. That's when the plan began to take shape. Earth would not send thousands of ships into battle. They would build one, and they would pour everything into it: technology, innovation, and raw human determination. This single warship would not just be a weapon, it would be a message. A message that humanity was not afraid. A message that someone was finally ready to fight back. While the galaxy remained silent under Zarkith rule, Earth began preparing in secret. The other species thought the humans were foolish and reckless. But Admiral Rain wasn't seeking approval. She was preparing to make history. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. We're introduced to the heart of humanity's plan, a single, powerful warship named the Valkyrie. Unlike the Zarkith, who relied on fear and overwhelming numbers, Earth took a completely different approach. They didn't build a giant fleet or prepare a huge invasion. They built just one ship, but it was no ordinary ship. The Valkyrie was a prototype, a top-secret project designed to change everything. While the rest of the galaxy believed only large armadas could win battles, humanity focused on quality over quantity. The Valkyrie was the result of years of secret research, cutting-edge science, and deep strategy. It was built with the best human technology. It had weapons the galaxy had never seen before: railguns that fired with terrifying speed, plasma lances that could slice through thick armor, and stealth systems that made it nearly invisible. It could jump across space in the blink of an eye. It had shields strong enough to resist massive energy blasts. And most importantly, it was fast, faster than anything in the Zarkith fleet. The galaxy laughed when they heard about it. One ship? Against the most terrifying empire the galaxy had ever known. That was a joke to them. Many species thought humans were either too proud or too naive to understand what they were up against. But Admiral Lexa Rain wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't looking for applause. She was focused, calm, determined. She believed in the Valkyrie because she had helped design it. She knew every inch of its systems. She trusted her crew and her plan. Her first move wasn't to sneak into enemy space quietly. She didn't hide. She gave an order that shocked even her own officers: set course for Zarkith territory. No stealth. Let them see us coming. It was a bold move. Reckless, some would say. But Rain wanted the Zarkith to notice the Valkyrie. She wanted to send a clear message: we are not afraid of you. She was ready to face them head-on, not with numbers, but with precision and power. She believed that fear only works if everyone keeps running from it. If just one person stops and turns to face it, everything can change. As the Valkyrie moved into Zarkith-controlled space, the galaxy watched with curiosity, some with hope, others with disbelief. After all, no one had dared to challenge the Zarkith for over 2 centuries. But this time, things were different. This time, it wasn't a fleet of helpless defenders or a council full of diplomats. This time, it was one warship. This time, it was a human warship. And the Zarkith were about to find out what that meant. The Valkyrie enters Zarkith space, and war begins. Admiral Lexa Rain had made her bold move. She sent the Valkyrie straight into the heart of enemy territory without hiding or sending a warning. The moment they crossed into Zarkith space, alarms triggered across the Empire. For over 2 centuries, no ship had ever dared to enter Zarkith space without permission, until now. The Zarkith responded exactly as expected. Within minutes, a patrol fleet was dispatched to intercept the lone human vessel. These patrol ships were smaller than the massive Zarkith warships used in full invasions, but they were still powerful and deadly. Most species in the galaxy wouldn't have survived an encounter with even one of them. The Zarkith commander opened a channel and gave their usual message, cold and sharp: obey or be erased. But this time they got a very different reply. We're not here to obey. We're here to test your strength. Admiral Rain's voice was calm, confident. The Zarkith fired first, launching a barrage of energy blasts that lit up space like fireworks. It should have been an easy kill, but it wasn't. The Valkyrie dodged with movements too fast for their scanners. Its stealth and agility allowed it to slip between blasts like a ghost. Then it struck back, fast and precise. Railgun slugs punched through one Zarkith ship. Plasma lances tore another apart. In seconds, 3 Zarkith vessels were destroyed, their flaming remains drifting in the void. The Zarkith were stunned. They had never seen such weapons, never seen such speed. Before they could regroup, the Valkyrie vanished, jumping through space to a new position. The human warship didn't stay in one place. It struck, vanished, and struck again. This hit-and-run tactic was something the Zarkith weren't prepared for. Admiral Rain's plan was working. She wasn't trying to win a battle by brute force. She was sending a message, both to the Zarkith and the entire galaxy. Back on neutral worlds, news spread like wildfire. Surveillance drones hidden in the edges of Zarkith space had recorded the fight. Species who had lived in fear for generations watched the replay again and again, one human ship destroying a fleet of Zarkith patrol vessels. Some didn't believe it at first. Others cried tears of hope. For the first time in centuries, someone had stood up and won. But Admiral Rain knew the real test was still ahead. The Zarkith would not take this insult lightly. They would send more, bigger ships, stronger fleets. That's exactly what she wanted. This wasn't just about victory. It was about changing the rules of the galaxy, and she was just getting started. After the stunning victory against the Zarkith patrol fleet, the Valkyrie became the center of attention across the galaxy. Billions of beings from countless worlds tuned in to secret broadcasts, hoping for more news. The idea that one human ship had defeated the Zarkith was something no one had ever thought possible. But Admiral Lexa Rain knew the real fight had only just begun. The Zarkith were furious. Their pride had been wounded. Their fear-based empire had been challenged. So they did what they always did when threatened. They sent in a dread fleet. A dread fleet wasn't just a group of warships. It was a show of total power. 30 heavily armed Zarkith vessels, including a Dreadnought-class command ship the size of a small moon, moved toward the last known location of the Valkyrie. The galaxy held its breath. This wasn't a small battle anymore. This was going to be a storm of destruction, the kind that crushed entire civilizations. But Admiral Rain was ready. She had studied Zarkith battle patterns for years. She knew their strategies relied on intimidation and brute strength. But what the Zarkith didn't realize was that the Valkyrie wasn't just fast and powerful, it was smart. Its onboard AI, called Athena, worked alongside Rain in real time. Athena could track multiple targets, adjust tactics instantly, and control the ship's systems faster than any living pilot. Together, Rain and Athena were like a single mind, one that could think faster than an entire fleet. The battle began in a quiet, empty sector of space. The Zarkith fleet arrived with confidence. 30 ships surrounded the area, scanning for the human warship. Then the Valkyrie appeared. Not in front of them, but behind. Its first strike took out 2 ships in under 10 seconds. Then it vanished again. The Zarkith panicked. They fired wildly, but the Valkyrie moved like a shadow, blinking in and out of space with its advanced jump drive. Every time it appeared, it destroyed something. Rain didn't fight to match their numbers. She fought like a hunter, picking them off, confusing them, breaking their formation. The turning point came when the Valkyrie went after the Dreadnought. It seemed impossible. This ship was a giant, loaded with weapons and armor. But Admiral Rain had a secret weapon, the Nova Spear, a high-energy missile designed to pierce through even the strongest shields. She fired it straight at the Dreadnought's core. The explosion lit up space like a second sun. The shockwave knocked out communications across the fleet. The Zarkith, for the first time in history, retreated. The Valkyrie didn't just survive, it won. Across the galaxy, planets that had once bowed in fear now raised their heads. The message was clear. The Zarkith could be beaten. And humanity had just lit the spark. The defeat of the Zarkith Dread Fleet by a single human warship sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For generations, entire species had lived under the shadow of Zarkith rule. They had accepted fear as a way of life. But now, after centuries of silence, hope was spreading like wildfire. The Valkyrie's victory wasn't just a military success, it was a symbol. Admiral Lexa Rain had proved something powerful, that the Zarkith could bleed and they could lose, and that truth, even more than weapons, was dangerous to an empire built on fear. The resistance began quietly. On distant worlds, enslaved workers started whispering to each other. Old rebel groups, long thought destroyed, began regrouping in the shadows. Small planets that had paid tribute to the Zarkith for survival began refusing to send their shipments. They didn't have fleets. They didn't have powerful weapons. But now they had belief. And that changed everything. Admiral Rain watched this growing movement from the Valkyrie's command deck. She hadn't expected the effect to be so fast. Messages flooded in, encrypted transmissions from alien species, asking for help, for advice, for leadership. For the first time ever, different species started working together, not just for survival, but to fight back. The Galactic Council, which had long been silent and useless under Zarkith pressure, was suddenly active again. Member species demanded meetings. Delegates who once hid their fear now stood up in front of crowds and said the unthinkable. If humans can resist, why can't we? Meanwhile, the Zarkith were crumbling from the inside. Their leadership, once so confident, now argued behind closed doors. They sent more ships, more threats, but they were no longer met with silence. They were met with defiance. One system, then another, declared independence. The Zarkith tried to destroy them, but the Valkyrie was always there, appearing when least expected, protecting rebel strongholds, vanishing before they could be caught. It wasn't just a warship now, it was a legend. Children on faraway planets spoke its name in awe. Enemies feared its silhouette in the stars. The Valkyrie had become a symbol of change, and still Admiral Rain kept pushing forward. She knew the fight wasn't over. The Zarkith still had more fleets, more weapons, more cruelty. But they had lost the one thing that made them powerful: control through fear. Once people stop being afraid, even the most terrifying empire begins to fall apart. Now the galaxy was no longer dark and quiet. It buzzed with rebellion. It glowed with fire and hope. The balance was shifting. And humanity, with just one ship, had started the revolution. But Admiral Rain understood something very clearly. The final battle hadn't come yet. The Zarkith wouldn't go down without one last fight. They would use everything they had left. And the Valkyrie would be ready. The galaxy on the edge of complete transformation. Thanks to the Valkyrie and Admiral Lexa Rain, the once unstoppable Zarkith Empire was collapsing. Worlds they ruled with an iron fist were rising up. Their fleets, once feared across the stars, were being destroyed or forced to retreat. But Rain knew the fight wasn't finished. The Zarkith had one last move, a desperate gamble to hold onto their power. Deep in their home system, they activated their planet killer, a doomsday weapon hidden for centuries. It was a massive artificial station capable of wiping out entire planets in a single blast. They named it the Throne of Silence. Their message to the galaxy was clear: submit or burn. The fear they once used to rule was back for a moment. Some species hesitated. Some rebel forces slowed down. The threat was real. The Zarkith were ready to destroy anything and anyone who defied them. But Admiral Rain didn't blink. She charted a course directly toward the Throne of Silence. No fleet, no backup, just the Valkyrie. The galaxy watched in silence as the lone human warship approached the deadliest weapon ever built. Many believed it would be the end, that not even the Valkyrie could survive this. But Rain had faced fear before. She knew its tricks, and she had one final plan. As the Valkyrie reached the outer edge of the Zarkith home system, it was surrounded by defenses, hundreds of turrets, drones, and cruisers. The station prepared its planet-killer weapon. Then the battle began. It was the most intense fight the galaxy had ever seen. The Valkyrie danced through fire. Its shields flickered, its hull scorched, but it didn't stop. Rain and her AI partner, Athena, were in perfect sync. Every move was fast, sharp, and deadly. They destroyed the outer defenses, then pierced the inner ring. But the station was too well defended. It became clear. They couldn't destroy it from the outside. So Rain made a choice. She would fly into the station. Through a narrow maintenance tunnel only 10 meters wide, she guided the Valkyrie into the heart of the enemy's superweapon. Inside the core, where the energy reactors powered the entire station, she armed the Valkyrie's final payload, a controlled detonation that could trigger a chain reaction and destroy the whole structure. Athena asked her one last question. "Are you sure?" Rain smiled. Let's finish this. The Valkyrie exploded in a burst of white light. The throne of silence shattered. The galaxy watched as the weapon vanished, and with it, the fear that had gripped them for centuries. Rain's sacrifice became legend. Statues were built. Her name was sung across stars, and the galaxy remembered the lesson she gave them. It doesn't take an army to fight fear. Sometimes it just takes one person brave enough to face it, and one ship strong enough to carry that courage into the fire. The age of fear was over. The age of freedom had begun.